everyone leaves, they just shut off the lights and leave with them. What? Wonka even asks how many kids are left, eerie sounding in itself, but what a weird thing to ask since he already knew there's a single kid left. All of this is because, like the 71 film, each kid has a room specially designed for them. Chocolate, nuts and squirrels, chewing gum, and television. Proof he spied on them. Many of you mentioned how he could have just seen them on TV and based the rooms off of their stereotypes, but no one, not even a team of Oompa Loompas, can create an entire chocolate room, an entire gum machine, television room, and a squirrel nut factory in a matter of a few days. Ridiculous. All of the tickets were designed to be sent out to each specific kid. Violet and Augustus were gluttonous, Veruca was greedy, and Mike was wrathful, and by these means it was easy to slip a ticket right to them. Specific boxes, specifically sent specific places. As Willy Wonka says, Mike is the little devil who cracked the system, because apparently Wonka sent out these tickets according to an algorithm to get them to specific places. Charlie would be the easiest to get a candy bar to, and the others are just algorithmic. Mike and his calculations of figuring out that algorithm literally put him into the trap Wonka wanted. If all of this isn't a dead giveaway, that he planned this for each kid, I don't know what is. Why else would he need an algorithm of where to send the tickets? And before I get into the real evidence, the statistical odds are staggering. All of the people who find the tickets are children, aside from Mr. Salt, who publicly stated he was finding it for his daughter. And then there was that one Russian person who faked a ticket. There's no way of testing if it's fake. How would they know? Unless it was Wonka who revealed otherwise. And the only way he'd know is if he directly knew where he was sending each ticket. As I just said, the odds are staggering. 4 brats and 1 kind child, as opposed to a mixed bag of normal kids. It makes virtually no sense whatsoever. Speaking of which, the Charlie in this movie is a saint in comparison to the last movie's Charlie. 1971 Charlie, he used the bubble room, and he was in fact selfish to a degree. This one is not. And do you know what? The 1971 movie had the fizzy lifting drinks scene. The book didn't, because it made Charlie look a bit selfish and not like a saint. This is clearly not what Roald Dahl wanted, because like the book, the 2005 film omits the fizzy lifting drink scene. They did this because they really need to make the distinction that Charlie is 100% good and the others are 100% bad, because it shows Wonka's plan, how he's doing as much as he can to help Charlie win. This 2005 film is so faithful to the book that it portrays Oompa Loompas as they were written before the final draft of the book. They were written as African pygmies with dark hair, and basically exactly what the 2005 movie shows them as. The book ultimately changed its description because it might have shown comparisons to slavery, but you can see just how far Burton is willing to go. But all of this evidence is nothing without the stuff I promised. Tim Burton's blatant evidence. The stuff he really wants us to see. Things in the script that Wonka says and does. First of all, they head into the chocolate room. Augustus blasts up the pipe, and the Oompa Loompas sing their song. Wonka asks everyone, weren't they just delightful? And Mr. Salt says how it all seemed rehearsed. Mike then says it was like they knew it was all going to happen.
Aren't they delightful? Aren't they charming?
I do say that all seemed rather rehearsed.
But they knew it was going to happen.
Oh, poppycock.
Wonka's only response is poppycock, which is said sarcastically, and this was all literally written in there by Tim Burton and his team, that the Oompa Loompas were prepared for this, and the pipe just so happened to go down right after Wonka explained what it does, and then after Augustus fell in. Kind of shifty. Also, if that evidence was not enough to really push this, there's so much more. A lot of it is seen during Veruca Salt's demise. Wonka says, no, don't do that, like once, but doesn't really try to stop her as she runs down to the squirrels. He stands there. Then when they attack her, he fumbles for his keys, unable to find the right one as he chuckles. Like, really? Then they throw her down the garbage chute, and the Oompa Loompas start to sing their song. Then Wonka does one of those serious stares I mentioned. he does it right at Mr. Salt as he puts the correct key in and opens the gate for him. So, he knew the right key the whole time. Proof! I don't know how much more I can do. Wonka then says they only light the incinerator on Tuesdays, but the day was Tuesday. This ultimately prompted Mr. Salt to go down there and find her. Wonka said all he has to do is reach in and pull Veruca out. No. It's a huge, deep chute. How could he reach in and pull her out? Just listen to Veruca scream as she falls. It's all a plot to get him down there so that he too will fall in. Then the trained squirrel kicks him in without testing to see if he's a bad nut. Suddenly, Wonka receives news that the incinerator has been broken, and that there just so happens to be weeks' worth of garbage to break their fall. This all seems undoubtedly planned, but there's still tons more. Unlike the 1971 Wonka, this Wonka takes zero investment in the kids, except for Charlie, who he is constantly kind to, giving him lots of chocolate, sitting next to him on the boat, and taking invested interest in him, right off the bat before he really meets any of them. I don't think Charlie was on TV, so there's no way he could know anything about him unless he spied and already knew. He insults all of the brats, tells them he doesn't care, constantly insults them being kids, calls Veruca a wart and grips his gloves around her, says he doesn't want to learn their names because it doesn't matter, and he calls Mike a mumbler whenever he mentions how Wonka's whole tour seems staged or how it makes no sense. Wonka continues to cut Mike off, as the smart Mike knows this is all too weird, but Wonka tries to hide it. It's like he brought all the kids, but unwillingly. He's putting up with his weird plan to help their parents. Speaking of which, why does he so desperately want to put up with all of them just to give Charlie his factory? Well, first of all, he doesn't want to come off as suspicious by just randomly giving a young boy his factory. After Violet's song, Charlie asks Wonka why he let in 5 kids at this specific time. However, Wonka is strangely cut off by someone else. But later on in the movie is one of the most suspicious pieces of evidence yet. Wonka tells Charlie how he was getting old and how he needed to find an heir. He then tells Charlie to his face that he'd found an heir. Charlie himself. Charlie delightfully says,
That's why you sent out the golden tickets.
Then Wonka pauses with a look of worry on his face and says, as if to continue to lower suspicion regarding the little boy he clearly spied on. It's all about Charlie. It was always about Charlie. It all happened right around Charlie's birthday when he gets chocolate. The Candyman downtown was most likely in on it too. Wonka fired all of his staff. That doesn't mean he cuts off communication with the people he supplies. And how random that Charlie finds a bit of money just sitting there, planted in the snow, sticking out, just sitting there waiting for him while he's nearby the chocolate bar supplier. Why would Wonka put a golden ticket in his own town as well? It all makes sense by this theory. And to lower suspicion, all that, is just the first reason he's putting up with the kids. To lower that suspicion, and in the process, teach all the kids' parents a lesson. That was my point in my first theory. And now we see it does indeed apply to this 2005 film as well. But this movie has an addition that changes everything. Dr. Wilbur Wonka. And so, I believe the second reason he's putting up with all these kids, the reason he feels so deeply that he needs to teach their parents a lesson, is because of his misguided childhood trauma. Wilbur wasn't in the book. He was a character that Burton, Felicity, and the gang seemed to think was a requirement. But why? Why add this character and give Wonka a backstory? In my personal opinion, they needed to give him a reason for all of this. All of these clear lessons he's teaching the parents. He's only doing it to compensate for what he feels he never had, a good parent. In fact, his whole life has been one big attempt at growing up too fast. He tells all the kids that they're short, and that he was never that short because he always wore a tall top hat to keep him large and in charge. His factory has rooms where he makes whipped cream, despite the fact that whipping a cow does not make whipped cream. He has whole rooms dedicated to things that aren't even chocolate, like hair cream and, oh god, the inventing room. Look at this factory. No chocolate factory in the world is this big. According to the movie, it's 50 times larger than any other factory in the world.